Hello everyone, welcome to this session. This is Damien from Edureka, and in this video we are going to learn about batch epics in Salesforce. Now this is a very important topic as batch epics will use mostly in every project in Salesforce. But before we get started, if you like our video, please do not forget to subscribe to the Edureka YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to never miss out on any updates. Also, if you guys are interested in our certification training, do check out the link shared in the description below. So without any further delay, let's get on with today's agenda. Firstly, we'll understand what is batch epics, then why should we learn batch epics, and see the syntaxes for it, how batch epics works, then do a demo by creating a batch class. Finally, we shall see the limitation of batch epics. Now, first thing first, batch epics is basically an asynchronous process like queuable and future method. What is asynchronous process for now, I will explain with a small example. Okay, so today morning when I woke up, I had 3 tasks to do. One is taking shower and getting ready and then complete my task, and I realize my car engine is not starting, so I have to give my car for servicing. So asynchronous is something which runs in background without you having to wait for the task to finish. So if you see all these 3 tasks, we need to realize which one doesn't need my physical presence. So taking a shower and then getting ready, of course I need to be there. Completing my task as well require for me to be there, and finally giving my car for service. Giving my car for servicing doesn't need my physical presence there. Now I don't need to wait till the servicing is completed. So if you see how synchronous and asynchronous is, you will understand the importance of a synchronous process. So if we time frame these things, so getting ready takes around 20 minutes, then completing your work takes around 240 minutes, and for car servicing around 180 minutes. So if I wait for car servicing for 3 hours to complete, it will take me around 440 minutes, which is around 7.3 hours. So instead, after getting ready in the asynchronous process, I can give my car for servicing and take a cab and then come back and then complete my task, and then I will go back to car servicing to pick up the car. So if you see, it just took around 260 minutes, which is around 4.3 hours. So this is what asynchronous means. Anything that doesn't need your physical presence or doesn't need user interaction in a computer terminology, we call it as user interaction. So if you do not need any user interaction to a specific job, just move it to a synchronous job. Then automatically it will run parallelly and your task will be done in different end and back. And it will be done with another task, as simple as that. This will save you your time. So now let us understand why should we learn batch epics. So imagine I got into a problem. I wanted to update 1 lakh account. So Salesforce is telling me go away as the governor limit is just 10,000 updates. Yes, as per Salesforce governor limit, we cannot update more than 10,000 records in one transaction. So now there is a problem where he needs to update 1 lakh account at once. So to fix this, we have a solution which is presenting you the savior of any developer. In fact, for any project, the batch epics. Now, I am not exaggerating it, but batch epics is in fact the savior of any person or developer. In any project, usage or batch epics is quite common. So whenever there is a need of processing millions of records, then the only answer is batch epics. Except batch epics, there is no other way you can process million records at once. Suppose you want to do any complex logic and million of records, you need to go to batch epics. Now you want to delete million of records at once, you have to go to batch epics. So this is how batch epics has become a very important role in any project. So batch epics processes up to 50 million records in background, unlike future methods and queuable. Future and queuable still agrees with whatever limits that we have in for asynchronous. But batch epics will process 50 million records at once. So as per record requirement, we have 1 lakh record to update, but the governor limit is of course 10,000 records at once. So that is the reason Salesforce asks us to go away, as I cannot insert 1 lakh record at once in batch epics. Now batch epics can deal with this situation if you ask how, as batch epics processes total record in batches. So let's say in one batch, if you want to process 2000 records, so for processing all the 1 lakh record that I have asked for 2000 records for each batch, it will take 50 batches to complete. So I will explain this with an example. Let's say a bag has to move from one room to another room. So you see here there are 6 suitcases. So unfortunately God has given me only 2 hands, so I can carry only 2 bags at once, which means one batch is equals to 2 bags. So for one batch which is equal to 2 bags, which means one time I can carry only 2 bags. So I can carry 2 bags to another room and then I come back and then I will take another 2 bags. So if I can hold only 2 bags, so the batch size is 2, which means I need to run 3 times running for the same job so that the 6 bags will be moved to the second room. So in summary, if a batch is equals to 2, which means if I can only hold 2 bags but 10 bags, I will take 5 trips. So if there's 100 bag, it will take me around 50 trips or 50 batches. Now if you have 10,000 bags, of course it will take 5,000 batches. And finally for 1 lakh bags, it will take 50,000 batches. If we just convert this analogy to our Salesforce queue by analogy, if batches is equal to 2000, which means if I can hold 2000 records at once to process 10,000 records, it will take 5 batches. Now so to process 1 lakh record, it will take around 50 batches. So this is how batch epics work. I hope this bag analogy helped you to understand batch epics. Now let us talk on how to create batch epics. So if your question is it easy? Yes, of course, it is easy. So for an asynchronous method, if you want to define it, so let's say it is feature, you need to give it a trait, feature annotation. If it is queueable, you need to give that class as implement queueable interface. Now in case this epics batch, we need to implement database.batchable interface. Now it's as simple as that. So to define any batch epics, whenever you implement database.batchable, then Salesforce will immediately understand, okay, this is a batch class which is processing million of records at once. So this is how Salesforce understands for a queueable interface is something which is a to-do list. So if you are implementing an interface, you also need to get the method that are inside the to-do list. So database batchable is having 3 methods which we need to add it on our class. So the first method is start method. So what do we need to write in the start method? So in that batch class which is implementing database, start method will have query of all the record to process. Now let's say you want to query all accounts or to delete. So in here and start method, you will just write start ID from account. Then you don't need to give anything else. You just need to give all the records. Let's say even though it's receiving million of records, it will stay there. And the second method is execute. It will have the batch of records that need to process from start. Let's say out of 10, 1 lakh, because in our previous example, we have given 1 lakh record out of it. So execute method will take only 2000 records and then it will again go to start to get another 2000, then another 2000. So execute will run 50 times. Start method will have 1 lakh records. Execute method will take 2000 records at once, so that the execute method will run 50 times to process all the 1 lakh records. And finally, when execute method is done, it will go to the finish method where it will have any post-processing logic. Some like, so hey, your batch job has been run properly and these are the list of records that have been updated. So we want to send some emails, so some kind of any logs, creation then finishing method can be usable. So let's see the difference between queueable and batch epics. Queueable is implemented by queueable interface. In batch epics, it implements database.batchable. As I said, interface has a to-do list. In queueable, it has only one execute method. But in a database.batchable, it has a start, execute, and finish method. Okay, now let us understand how batch epics work. Now, as you know, we have 3 methods, that is the start, execute, and finish method. So start method will query all the records. So let's say we have 1 lakh record. It will get all the 1 lakh record and now it will send a batch. So let's say 2000 record to execute the method. So in this execute, we will do our logic. Let's say we will update it or we will delete it, etc, etc. So execute will do its processing and then it is the one. It will do all the processing. Once it is done, it will again take another 2000. It will go back again and it will take another 2000 from the start method and then it will execute the next 2000 and it will take the next 2000 until it finishes all the 1 lakh records. Once 1 lakh record are done, it will come down and it will finish if we have any post-processing logic, something like to send an email and to do some kind of logs, etc. Then we need to have a logic in the finish method. Now if you see execute method is calling multiple times, start will be called only once and welcome to execute, and it will cross multiple times with multiple batches, and finally it will come out of it with finish method. So we go to file and click on Apex class. Here we'll just create test demo batch. So we'll click on OK. Now this is the class, simple class. If you want to make any class to batch, the class we need to write implement, and then we need to give the database.batchable, and then we give as object. So whenever we give the implement, we are trying to implement an interface. So interface is something which is having a to-do list. In our daily to-do list, we have a couple of things, right? So we need to wake up and then get ready and go to office, etc., etc. So in the same manner, database which is also having a to-do list, those to-do list starts, executes and finish method, which means any class that is implementing this interface, we need to follow its to-do list. So the to-do list of database batch will contain start, execute and finish method. Okay, so we'll take this out. So start method, we need to write public and we need to give a database.query. Don't worry about this. This is just a data type. I will explain it to you better. So method, and it will receive database.context, that will context as parameter. So in the start method, we need to have something in return. So which we will have get database.query locator, and then we need to give query here. So start method will have all the data that needs to be processed. So as the example as if we have to update 1 lakh account. So let's say in our database, let's say we have 1 lakh account. We'll just give it an account. So if we run this statement that runs this particular line, it will get all the records. Now if it is 50,000 or 1 lakh, it doesn't matter. Query locator has the ability. This is get query. So get query located has the ability to query as many records. Unlike our regular Apex, we cannot query this query, which has more than 50,000 records, or batchable Apex will hit the exception, but in batch class, which is implementing database or batchable, it will not hit the exception even when the query returns 1 million record. This is how the database query locator is handy. So inside this query look at, you need to give your query as a string. Now we have a start method. Now we need to write the execute method. So execute method. Now it will not return anything void, and then just need to give execute, and here you have the same parameter as start, which is batchable context, and then it will receive. So this let's say this particular line has one larger record or 1 million records, and then it will send 2000 records. So one execute is the execute method is done. With these 2000 record, again start module send next 2000 as a chunk. So this is the place where it will receive those 2000 records. So we need to give something by sublist from the start method. So here we will do our logic to process all 2000 record. So one thing, once this 2000 record again come back to the execute method, in this execute method, by the time it will have a fresh to 2000 to 4000, and again it will run this 2000, and again it will come to the execute method and sublist from the sublist method. Now other 2000, which is from 4000 to 6000. So once our processing is done, we have a final method which is finished. So this is also having the same logic as this, which is batchable context, and then same parameter. So in here you can send, or you can have any post-processing logic. So I can send an email, or I can just put system or debug saying that batch job is done. For now I will put debug, and then I'll write batch job completed. Okay, now we have a finish method, we have a start method, and we have an execute method. So I will just show you an example. So we already have the start method, which is having all the account, and which we will try to update all the accounts, and for every account there should be a prefix cell which will be updated. So example, if I go here and click on accounts, Let's see how many records are there. So we go to all accounts and I see around 19 records in total. So every account should have named something called batch updated in its name. Okay, so we will do it in batch class. So we have an execute method where we will need to process all of them. So here I will write on my logic. So as you already know, a subject is there, but instead of that object, I can also pass the account, or else I need to typecast it. If you are really sure which object you are querying, you can just give it here so that you don't need to typecast. So if you are really sure, type in here account.acc and then the sublist form start method here, and then we will just update a name. Name is equal to, I will just prefix with batch updated, and then I will just add the action name. Now the account name is Damon, then it will change to batch acc.name. 1 second is being updated in the update command, and it is done. So we have our start method which is querying all the accounts. It will send chunks of data to this execute method. So for now we have only 20. So that is the reason in one batch itself is executed. If we have 1 million, so every time 2000 we send here, in 2000 records will be updated, and again it will go up, and again next 2000 will be updated, and that's how it will be done. Now once all this is done, then finish method will just be ready to debug message. Okay, so this is how we can define the batch class. 2000 is the maximum batch class. Say you can even reduce it up to 1 also. Okay, I got the syntax, but how to call the batch apex? To call this batch apex from any other class or from execute method, this is how you need to call its database.execute batch, and you need to instantiate this class by using new and then class name comma batch class. Now if you have given the batch class here as 2000, it will take 2000 in one batch and then process it and execute. Now if you give 20, it will take 20 records in that batch. Now they can execute and then it will proceed. Now we have our batch class ready. We need to know how to call this batch class. So if we go to debug, so batch class can be called from another batch class or from a mini apex, etc, etc. Now if I want to call my batch class, I need to use a command called database.execute batch. Now you need to instantiate your class name here, so which is a testable batch, and then here this is an optional, but you can give the batch class also as a default batch class is 200 and the maximum will be 2000 and the minimum is 1. So what is this batch size? So if you see here, it is sending 2000. Let's say the start method, it says 1 like record, it will send 2000. So if you want to send 2000 for every batch, you can make it 2000. So if you want to make it only 100 at once, and it will go 100 here. If you want to have only one, that has to send every time, you need to give 1 here. But now you can ask this question, why 1? So 1 is least, right? So why can't I just give 2000 so that for 1 million by 2000 it will just end within 5000 batches for all the backups which will run. Now if I give 1 here, it will take 1 million times of this execute method to execute, and then it will go to finish. Who will give 1 here? The reason is execute method will take time to execute its logic. Let's say execute method has multiple callouts and multiple big complex problems, and couple them into say complex logic. It has multiple updates to do which intents call trigger, etc, etc. Then what happened is this execute method will take a long time to process all the chunks. Let's say give it 2000, and all these 2000 has to go through all the multiple callouts, because complex logic for all those 2000 and updates trigger as if there is a time limit for this is a synchronous process. Now it will hit the limit and it will obviously stop your batch job. Now that is the reason for it taking too long to execute to do it. So we need to reduce the batch size from 2000 to 1000, even though it doesn't fit. You need to come back to 1. So that is the reason there is a batch size, which you can define it by yourself. So it has to be based on your logic that you have written in your execute method. So okay, so I hope you understood the importance of batch size so far. So if you see, for now we have only 19 records. So I want to show you how that works. So I will give 1 here, which means start method will receive all 19 records, and out of those 19 records 1 will be sent to this execute method, and each object will get updated. And then again, if we come back to the execute, and then one of them will execute like this again. So we have 19 types to execute this method. Now if I click on execute, you should be seeing 19 entries in this log. So for people who doesn't know logs here, so log C something as debug now, which will have the record of every actions of yours under here. Okay, now let's see if this execute runs multiple times, it will have that many entries. So 19 records we are running as one of them. So we should be seeing 19 records along with our execute actions. If I click on execute here, it should display 19 log entries. One more thing, so I need to queue name also here because we are trying to update names. Yeah, that means it is required. Now if we click on execute here, we should be seeing 19 entries here in the log. So each of the entry relates to one execute transaction. Now let's see whether our account's affected with the name. So click on refresh and we see a batch updated, batch of it, etc, etc. So this is how you can call your batch class with your batch number. So regarding the batch size, the minimum batch size is 1 and the maximum batch size will be 2000. So if you don't provide the batch size in that particular calling, then the default will be 200. Okay, I got it, but why should we learn batch class when we already got 𝐂𝐫𝐴 and future method? So the major benefits with batch class is it allows you to process 50 millions of records in background 𝐂𝐵L, and future methods cannot handle this much of data, and batch job is very much best in handling long running processes. But let's say you are doing any callouts, and if it is taking long time for a large chunk of data batch effects, it's a lot more useful than 𝐂𝐵𝐿 and future. Okay, now we will see the limitation with batch class. So at a time there can only have 5 batches that can be running at the same time. So let's say you have scheduled multiple jobs at any point of time, there should be only 5 batches job that should be running in parallel. And the second limitation is future method cannot be called from batch epics. So with this we have come to the end of this video, which was all about epics in Salesforce. Thank you guys for attending this session. I hope this could give you a clear idea of how to create your own batch classes in Salesforce. Now if you like this video, please click on the like icon and subscribe to our channel for more such content. See you in our next video. Until then, happy learning.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!